And particularly if you're not used to your camera, go out and take pictures in varying situations and shoot everything, shoot the mundane. If you have an idea what your story may be, find something similar and get to the technique part of the picture taking down. Once you feel comfortable with the technique, then you can really focus on your subject and what's happening. You know, you might go to the new Missouri Employment Office on East Sunshine and have a waiting room and just talk to people. And it is in what used to be a price cutter store next to Panera on East Sunshine. And you know, I've done those stories to where it's just a matter of finding the right person to tell you their story. And you might document them just using the resources of that area there. If they find a job, you might get to go to their job. Or you might just be able to go to their home and meet their family. But you've got to reach out to people. You know, you can't be too shy. And I have found, you know, talking to folks in the waiting room in that situation is pretty good. Found some pretty interesting stories in that regard. You know, that you really need to explain what you're doing and why you're doing it, and I think once you do that, you'll be okay. You know, having having information which accompanies your photograph is really relevant because it gives it more dimension, and you can say a lot. You can say a lot with a picture. You can say a little bit more with a cut line, and build a rapport with your subject. If you're talking about working with people, it's really important that you have a rapport with them and that they trust you and you've been upfront with exactly what you're doing and what you're going to do with the photographs.
Public situation and going
You know, I have one of those shoot first and ask questions later as a rule in public situations, but you know, it depends on what, I mean, if you're working in the employment office, you really want to connect with people. If you're shooting in a public place, you know, take your photographs and then explain to them what you're doing and why you're doing it. And because you, particularly if you're documenting something, it's very difficult to do that beforehand. You know, you've really got to take every situation differently. However, you know, I've always found if you approach people with a very open and honest introduction, you're just about always just fine. And if you're not, you wouldn't have been fine anyway. So different people give you different reactions, but I think in your case, they're going to be very receptive of what you're doing. And this is really interesting. I'm going to be very interested to see what you come back with, because how you see things and how your generation sees our community is really relevant. And it's going to be very interesting to see what you come back with. Well, don't be afraid to step out of your box and step forward, because after you do that, you will be really glad you did, because you'll get something that is unexpected. And be prepared for the serendipity. Be prepared for something to happen you didn't expect. Don't preconceive every situation you're going to be in. To be open to the possibilities of what it could be and what's going to happen. And particularly when you're documenting something, don't preconceive that this is what I'm going to do and this is what I'm going to show. Go in the situation and be open to the possibilities of what it could become. You may do some illustrative things, and illustrations are very deliberate and more of a piece of art, but it is about an idea. You know, if you were going to create a piece of art to illustrate an idea, that's closer to what a photo illustration is. And I'm a fan of the documentary and shooting things the way they really are and in the situations where they are too. But there again, every situation, you guys have a pretty wide palette here of where you may take this. Show us something we don't know, and show it from your perspective. And put yourself out there to illustrate what you feel, one way or the other. Because the emotional truth of your work is what will give it value. Otherwise, you're just taking pictures. Find something that means something to you and illustrate it. Find something that speaks to you and document what people do and how people live. Where they live, how they live, why they live, what their needs are, what their passions are, what their problems are. Reach out in the community, reach out to people you know, reach out to your peers even, and pull something out of it. And show people what you've seen. You know, I've always been brought into journalism because it was an opportunity for me to see something and show people what I saw. And I've never been big about hanging pictures on the wall. I mean, that's a great medium and I enjoy it once in a while, but being published in print, to take one picture and share it with a lot of people has just meant a lot to me. And it's a powerful medium. So take your cameras out there and be truthful and show us what you see. Cropping is a means of removing extraneous information. Photographs have information. You read an image very quickly. The same way you read a word, you read a picture and you get something out of it. So it's not being too tight. You know, an illustration is that we have people do a tug of war, a rope and people. And the closer I crop in on the people, the more I emphasize the empty space in between. And you may or may not want to do that. It's the space you put around something emphasizes or de-emphasizes something. I'm not sure in words I could explain cropping, but it's removing information that is extraneous and focusing the attention on the area that you want to focus on. And remember, you have the benefit of being there on the scene and knowing what the popcorn smelled like. So you're going to be biased to some of your pictures. Try to put yourself in the viewer's point of view and try to find out where your own biases are in certain things and put them aside. We are our own worst picture editor. Because no matter what, we are biased because we know how hard it was to get the picture, we know this and we know that. Well, the viewer doesn't know that. So really try to look at your pictures to see if they tell the story you want to tell. And you may have favorites you really like that aren't necessarily the pictures that tell the story. Get some reflection from other people. Let other people see your take. See if they get it. Let them look at your pictures and say, do you get what I'm trying to say here? And see what it says to them. And if it doesn't quite work, think of why and maybe alter your edit a little bit. You can have too many pictures, you can have too few. So I generally say, in a picture story, have one great picture and then everything else can support that.